Hey, y'all, welcome to Cross Politics.
What are we doing?
We're going to talk about North Korea's strategy deal with the coronavirus.
What virus?
The coronavirus. Church of Planned Parenthood.
Oh,
Church of Planned.
wait a second.
We'll explain that one.
Okay, this is going to be interesting.
Gender
show.
battle goes to the Supreme Court.
Oh, talking
Yes.
about gender lynching? Gender lynching? Oh, sorry.
Hey, y'all, we got a
Gender
good show
lynching.
for you. We got Tim Mahoney,
I think I'm offended.
director of the Red Sea Miracles, Part 1 and Part 2. And I got a great secret that you guys don't even know about.
Oh, really? Oh, I like secrets.
This is
Tell
how
me
he
about
does it.
Nate Wilson is coming to our conference in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, man.
Fight Laugh Feast, October 1st through the 3rd. What was that?
Don't you mess with Texas.
It's my new favorite clip. That's it. Nate Wilson's coming?
Nate Wilson. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Bound.
Bound.
Wait.
Try to spell that.
The N.D. Wilson?
N.D. Wilson.
We got him.
He committed to me.
At the Fight Laugh Feast?
I got a text from him saying, I'm there.
If it's in text,
No way.
it's
Yes.
in stone.
It's in writing.
It's
I have it in
it's
writing.
in blood.
You
That
know
we
what,
got
Dave?
Nate. So that makes, we still got a couple more
Okay,
secrets that
okay.
we're going to reveal.
Yeah,
But that
this
makes
is just-
Pastor Doug Wilson.
Okay.
Pastor George Grant.
Yep.
Can I get a stinger? Rod Martin. That's right.
What else you want? Come on, I got something.
I got CEO Futurist Rod Martin.
Okay.
We got
Four.
Nate Wilson.
Don't
Toby
you
Sumter.
mess with
That's right.
Texas.
Toby Sumter, and then a lot of the guys, pretty much all the guys from the network are trying their best to make it.
Yeah, and,
to be there.
we're planning to do like a big round table
Live
like,
show
Fight
at
Laugh
the end.
Feast
Yep.
extravaganza
with all the guys on the
like
network.
with the network.
Yeah.
That's going to be crazy.
And
That's
it's going to
fun.
be like,
That-
fighting
It's gonna be
and
a party.
laughing and feasting and
Yeah.
a big table with mics
that's
and
that's-
beer.
I'm not even ready for
and
that
beer.
one.
And so conference registration is live.
Wait.
I'm working on our club members, the discount thing. There's a kink in the technology I'll work out, but those who are not, those who are exactly.
That works for everything, doesn't it? We're doing great. It's not working. I mean, it just works for everything.
That's good. So you can go and register now. Seating's limited.
Can I have one of those?
Seating's
Can I have one of
limited.
those?
You can go, if you aren't a club member, you can register now. But if
Okay.
you're a club member or you can join, you can get $100 off if you become a club member. I'll send you a code.
It's
to be able to get the discount.
$100 off per adult registration.
You're losing money if you don't become a club member.
Basically,
It's crazy.
If you don't come to the conference, you're losing money.
Exactly. And all new club members get this Fight Laugh Feast t-shirt. That's the only way to get it. It's not in our show. It's not on our show. It's not our show.
It's in our show.
It's not on in our shop.
not in our shop.
Let me correct myself.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. And then
you
what was
get a
that?
shirt if you sign up as new members.
Yeah.
Like a new shirt.
And become a club member, y'all. We're really thankful for all the club members. We've had some club members with us for 3 years now.
Wow, you guys are
3
amazing.
years.
Thank
and
you.
going.
You know what?
And this is
That's
before we
for
had a
y'all.
club portal. This is before we had a coffee mug. This is before we had,
We had nothing.
we had nothing.
Yeah, some of these people, they just, it's just nothing but faith.
Yeah.
We are really grateful to introduce you to a brand new sponsor, Cross Politic.
Brand new?
Every year they come back about this time.
Oh,
Yeah.
brand new in 2020.
There you go.
It all began. It all began in 1981. The setting was a little town in North Idaho with an essay written by Dorothy Sayers. 10 years later, one of the school's founding fathers, Douglas Wilson, wrote a book called Recovering the Lost Tools of Learning to introduce Logos School to the world. You have like rising music to play right now?
No.
This book ignited a spark that spread like wildfire, classical Christian education. Since 2013, Logos Online School has grown to a
I
staff
was
of
thinking Last of
20
the Mohicans.
dedicated full-time and part-time teachers. Students are joining us from across the U.S. and around the world, bringing the best of homeschool, private school, and Christ-centered classical education right into your home.
You are.
All right,
I am
Logos
here.
Online School exists to support parents in the biblical responsibility they have to train up their children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
Yes.
To this end, they provide Christ-centered, computer-based classical education for grades 7 through 12 that is convenient, affordable, and accredited. Registration is open now for the 2020-2021 school year. Go to logosonlineschool.com. That's logosonlineschool.com. This is the online school that's grown out of the brick and mortar Logos school.
Yeah.
Started by Douglas Wilson in 1981.
So if you can't get to Moscow, you can still
But you can get
get
Moscow
to Logos online.
You can get Moscow
Come to you.
Come to
That's
you.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
LogosOnlineSchool.com.
All right, guys. I need to bring you in and give you an update on what's going on with Hunger Games.
It is time to walk away
really?
from the politics of the past.
This is
and
getting
towards
real.
something
Hunger Games.
Totally different.
People are lining up for food. That's a good thing.
I'm a hugger, I'm a kisser, and I'm a little bit of a sniffer.
Raising the minimum wage does not hurt business, it grows business.
Liar, liar.
I'm proud of you guys.
I am Spartacus.
So you're arguably the candidate with the greatest advantage in this race. You've been the vice president. You weren't burdened down by the impeachment trials. So
Don't bring that up.
in the participation. So how do you explain the performance in Iowa, and why should the voters believe that you can win the national
She's a
election?
plant.
It's a good question. Number one, Iowa's a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're now you got.
Can he do that?
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Can you do that?
What in the world?
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
You can do that.
That's another stinger.
What is that?
Well, I don't know, but you know what though? I gotta give it to Joe. I felt like she was a plant.
Oh, really?
I felt like she was a plant.
Really?
That's still too rehearsed.
You think she was from the Sanders campaign?
She was from somewhere.
She's from the Buttigieg. Pinko Pete was like, "Hey, go in there and ask
I
him
need
about
somebody.
yeah.
Nah, she was a plant.
You're lying. Wait, dog-faced pony soldier.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Joe,
Man.
I feel so bad for Uncle Joe because he had a chance to run for president, and all his gaffing life has now come concentrated into this last year.
Did we talk about the one with like he's talking about the kids that want to like
Yes, we did.
touch
Nate brought it up.
his leg
Yeah.
hair
Yeah.
on the.
Yeah, let's not.
We should put like splice a segment together of all the gaffes that Joe did
But here's
last year.
Joe hasn't changed though, has he? This
No.
has been Joe Biden forever,
No.
right? Joe has been. If you go back and track Joe Biden, remember when Obama was coming up to get something? I think he was presenting him first time as a president or whatever it was, and he was like big and he bleeping deal, right? It's like this is a big, and Obama's like. And he shakes his hand and tries to move on because he knows he got picked up by the mic.
Yeah.
But Joe's been saying all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And so this isn't new. It's just
Right,
that I think we're becoming more sensitive. You know, we were talking about this. I don't know if I don't think he's changed. This is how he's always been. But
Well, to that point, Vox had a story on it, and Vox, liberal, left,
Yeah.
You think, they're trying to do the best spin they can on
they're
this.
neutral.
Right. Said this is at least the second time he's used lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Oh, really?
He also,
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
I didn't know he
he
did.
did it at a North Dakota rally in 2018.
Oh.
He said that his brother used it from a John Wayne movie, he claimed. But
no one's found.
it's not clear if this line actually shows up in any John Wayne movie.
It doesn't matter. He thinks it is.
There are 180 John Wayne movies, incidentally, to sift through.
We are a postmodern culture.
So
he feels like it.
Yeah, right. That's how he felt.
Yeah.
Some people think he might have been misremembering a 1952 Tyrone Power film that was actually called Pony Soldier, in which a character says, "The pony soldier speaks with the tongue of the snake that rattles."
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Whatever it is.
That's
now,
all I got.
you
That's
know
all I
what?
got.
Joe Biden has created industry for people at Vox to go trace down movies.
And so-
Way to go,
Right.
Joe.
Yeah.
All right, if people have been following, we've kind of had this interesting movement going up in Spokane called the Church of Planned Parenthood. I got a little clip for you guys, and then I want to get into some news that's going on up there.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of people.
That's it. Yeah.
I heard about 500 or more show up sometimes.
Wow.
That is.
Wow.
That's pretty incredible. So what's going on
and you
is
see it's right across the street from Planned Parenthood.
and so they're in just public. They can't block the sidewalk, which is why the
Well, it's not-
sidewalk's open.
That's private property, though, right?
Yeah, I think they're across the street
They're
here.
across the street. That's Salvation Army's property that they're
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Salvation Army has said, Sure.
I think okay.
We'll
It's probably
let
a mix of both because I think there's some right of way stuff.
I think
there
they
that they're on,
still
but
can't.
anyways,
They
yeah,
still
yeah.
can't block sidewalks and
right,
stuff like that.
right.
But
And
Some
so
of these guys.
it looks like a church. It's like that's the middle aisle.
yeah, that's right.
Come on down.
I'll baptize you right now.
That's where the ushers walk up.
Yeah. So that church has been worshiping outside of Planned Parenthood, I think, for like 2 or 3 years.
and
It's been going on for a while.
My understanding is that it's a once a month gathering of multiple churches.
Yeah.
It's not like
One
a
church.
church proper.
Yeah.
They're calling it that just because they're saying Christians in the area can gather once a month, I think.
And have
Yeah.
a worship service.
And they have a worship service right across from Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
We saw you and I were looking at this yesterday, Chalk, about the interviewing. I think the pastor that's organizing it,
Right.
And he used the phrase. He said, "So we thought we would bring worship to the gates of hell."
Yep.
Oh.
And I mean,
Because that's where Christians need to go. We need to go towards the gates of hell.
I love that image. I mean, that's and Jesus gave that to us. And, and the promise, of course, is the gates of hell will not prevail against us.
Right.
But going right up to where they're murdering babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And crying out to God. I mean, that's like Jericho.
It is. Marching
right.
right around Jericho.
That's like marching around Jericho, singing praises, blowing trumpets,
That's right.
marching and asking
Right.
God to bring it down.
So the reason why I bring this up, show you guys the clip, is because the leaders at actual Planned Parenthood,
Right.
in Spokane, have filed an ordinance with the city council to decrease noise from frequent protests outside their facilities.
This is like Jericho City Council.
It's loud out there. This is like Nehemiah and Ezra
saying, "Can you please pass an ordinance that
That's right.
says they can't march so loudly?"
Our walls are gonna fall.
So the ordinance,
good.
The ordinance would not allow would allow a patient to file a lawsuit against protesters if they believe their health care was compromised because of the protest.
Oh.
So when I'm walking my baby up to the altar of Molech
To be killed.
if the marching sound outside the city makes me feel a little queasy,
exactly.
Amen. I want to have a law against that so I can sue them.
Look at that warfare, though.
Note this.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
I mean, that's some warfare.
Right.
You are coming there,
Yes.
singing praises to the Lord Jesus
Right.
Christ.
Right.
And these people are afraid
Yeah. Worship.
of sin.
And
sinning.
they need sand ballot to go to the city council.
But get this. Okay, so this is one of the things we're going to be dropping a show with Pastor Doug from
yes.
G3.
Worship is warfare.
Worship is
Yeah,
warfare.
that's
Worship is warfare. Jericho
Yeah.
is a sign of how God's going to give them the land.
That's right.
And the same thing holds true in the Christian era. We've been given the Great Commission. Now our Canaan is the whole world.
Right.
Yeah.
And we go there like Abraham went through the land building altars.
Yep, that's right.
Right? In order to claim
Worship centers throughout Canaan.
Like they are claiming that land for Jesus.
Right.
I love this incremental play.
And I love it too.
This is dangerous.
But the thing that I know this you're getting there, Gabe, is that means that this is a real threat.
Yeah.
That's right.
This
It
is a
really
real
is.
threat.
Yep.
It's such a threat that they have to bring an ordinance to the city council.
Yeah.
You-
Get Sam Ballot there.
Who are we talking to? I think it was the governor of Nebraska. We had a show with him when we were
Pete
on
Ricketts.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. We were on our East Coast tour.
Yeah.
And I think I asked the question because I'm going to tie this into what you were saying. I asked the question. He talked about Martin Luther King and standing up strong and bold for pro-life.
Yeah.
And I asked him, where were the dog bites on him? Where were the fire hoses that
Yeah.
he's been hit with? And so I think, let's say that something like this ordinance passes. This is one we ignore. And I think this is one where we say, we're going to sing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, this is. I mean, there's already what I was reading about it a little bit yesterday and this morning, but there's already sound ordinances for the city limits.
Yeah.
Of Spokane that the leaders of this have obeyed.
Yeah.
So they've submitted to what's already currently on the books.
Yeah.
And the cops have said that both sides have been great to work with on this protest.
So
everything.
What the people are claiming who are bringing this is that it's not really persecuting these people.
Right.
Yeah.
But the question is so what's missing?
Yeah.
And apparently the one maybe key thing is the right to sue if they feel that their health is being compromised.
Right.
They have to have an individual to do that, though.
Yeah.
And here's a little secret.
And you know they're going to bring someone.
Here's
They
a little
will.
more that's
They
what's
will.
missing. 5 of the 7 city council members have received cash donations from Planned Parenthood's PAC.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, for
So they
real.
need to recuse themselves.
Oh. Yes.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Does it work like that
So
if you're liberal?
Councilwoman Kinnear, she's one of them. Councilwoman Burke, Council President Brianne Beggs, Councilwoman Candace Mumm, Councilwoman Karen Stratton.
I'm just going to point out here.
Have received money from Planned Parenthood's PAC. And hang on, the building that was built received a $500,000 donation from Planned Parenthood's PAC.
The building
national.
The building
Planned Parenthood.
The building they sell slaves in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they kill slaves in.
They kill babies.
They kill the babies.
Oh, right.
And notice, just notice this. Isaiah says that a people is cursed when they're ruled by women and children. Those are all women.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Those 5 women. This adds to the wickedness of this. Taking money from baby killers. But these are women who are called by God to be mothers.
This is Romans 1.
And
they've lost their natural
and they're
desire.
receiving all these cash donations.
And they are doing it to themselves.
Yep.
And this is exactly what the curses in Deuteronomy actually specifically refer to women not only killing their own babies, but eating their own babies.
Wow.
That's in Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
And we think, Moses, please, this was a little extreme.
Yeah.
Really? Is that necessary? And he's like, look, this is what happens when you turn away from God.
So our boys over ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, which we might have something drop later on, but I can't even say that. But our boys over ADF, that's right.
It's a secret.
They have filed a lawsuit or on behalf of 3 female high school runners in Connecticut. So remember in Connecticut, there's some lady track.
Is this about transgender stuff?
Yes.
Oh man, give him another one.
Okay.
So there's
I'll give you a full one.
Don't you mess with Texas.
This is applause for you. You're doing great. You got Nate Wilson. You're doing all kinds of good stuff.
And so these track gals were pretty good at track. They go to state and they lose because guys are competing with them because they self-identify as women.
Right.
And so these 3 ladies, with Alliance for Defending Freedom, have filed a lawsuit to go to the Supreme Court to challenge this.
Wow.
This suit, I think, is one of the most important lawsuits that have been filed, in 2020, for sure, hands down, because this is going to challenge all the sexual ethics. This is at the heart of our sexual ethics right now. So think of it. If the Supreme Court comes and says, you are right, 3 girls.
Right.
You are right, ladies. You cannot, it's unfair to compete against men and to force you in that practice because they're losing scholarships.
Right.
They're losing opportunities to go to college with full rides. They're losing opportunities for medals.
They're getting abused.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
This
is big.
Right. And notice just this massive inconsistency. Like, if a woman going into Planned Parenthood feels like she might be slightly oppressed by a loud noise outside, she has the right to sue.
Right.
But these same people, would be like, no, but just shut up. Be quiet.
Yeah.
Let the dude in the dress run.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
That's right.
You loser.
Right.
I can't believe we're at this point right now that this even has to happen. Like, that's part of me when you're saying this. I just kind of lost it because I can't believe we're at a place in America where we have to have this. And look, I am totally for ADF suing. I am behind them. I hope they win. I hope they sue the pants off of them, whatever the case.
Yeah.
But when we get done, at the bottom line, we need some hot, hardcore gospel because a lawsuit is not going to do enough to turn this thing around.
This means that we are in stage 7 cancer.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, right. That's right.
The tumors are all over the
We've
body.
lost fingers.
We have metastasized. It's everywhere.
That's right.
And you're sucking blood. That's the corpse of our nation.
That's right.
When we're at this point.
Yeah.
And that means that the only way out is a miracle.
We need heart change.
The way out of this is like we're trapped at the edge of a sea.
Yep.
And the chariots are coming down. They're already all the way over us.
Yeah.
We're getting pummeled right now.
That's right.
And there's no way out unless God opens a path.
You're just setting up for the next segment,
Yeah.
aren't
Well,
you?
and the liberals are going to get us to the kind of Kim Jong-un way of dealing with the coronavirus. North Koreans are just being shot if they have the coronavirus in North Korea.
He thinks he's Xerxes.
He sounds like a Babylonian king. He's like, what? Boom. Right?
You got the coronavirus?
Gabe, you got Indy Wilson coming to our conference.
Yeah, man. I'm pumped.
Man, don't mess with Texas.
Yeah, I know. I'm pumped for Tim Mahoney coming on next.
Tim Mahoney,
he's coming too.
Americans have been traveling down the health insurance highway for decades. But lately, it's been taking us to places we don't want to go. For Christians, it's hard to know which road to take. Or is it? Samaritan Ministries provides a different direction, a biblical path for their members to pray for each other and share financially in each other's medical needs.
This idea that Samaritan has adopted from the book of Acts should permeate all parts of our lives, not just health sharing. We, as a body of believers, are living out New Testament Christianity. This is what God intended for the church.
Do you believe that you need an insurance company, or do you believe that God will provide your needs? And there are people that you've never met before who are going to pray for you and meet your needs. There's another way.
Looking for a new direction for your health care? Visit us online at SamaritanMinistries.org.
Classical Conversation supports homeschooling parents by cultivating the love of learning through a Christian worldview in fellowship with other families. We provide a classical, Christ-centered curriculum, local, like-minded communities across the United States and in several countries, and we train parents who are striving to be great classical educators in the home. For more information and to get connected, please visit our website at classicalconversations.com. Classical, Christian, get connected, get community.
You missed it. I saw you. You was about to jump on it.
I was distracted.
I'm grateful.
I was distracted.
Welcome back to Cross Politic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. We are grateful to have with us on the line right this very minute, Mr. Timothy Mahoney.
He came back.
It's just the second time.
He did. That's right.
It's always a miracle. It's a miracle.
It is. Miracle.
Tim's an award-winning filmmaker and founder of Thinking Man Films and Media, which produced the successful Patterns of Evidence films, including The Moses Controversy and The Exodus.
He's got his own MCU.
And
I mean, not necessarily, but he's got his own universe there.
Yeah. But he's coming back.
Okay.
With some more fun.
Oh, yeah.
He is releasing next week The Red Sea Miracle Part 1. It's coming to movie theaters on February 18th.
Okay.
Over 800 theaters nationwide.
A nice release.
And
is it part one, like when he parts the red? What do you mean part one?
Yeah, I'm going to ask him about that in just a second.
Okay.
You just hold your horses.
Okay.
Also, then part 2 will be releasing later this spring on May 5th. Tim, thanks so much for coming back on Cross Politic.
Well, thanks. I had enough courage to come back. It took me a while to muster it, but I've had some good sleep, and I decided I'd come back for more punishment.
Well, you know, he sent us some gifts before this interview.
Yeah, I like when
his books.
So is he nice to him?
Yeah, it's kind of like a peace offering before coming back on the show.
I think he's been wandering around in the wilderness, just waiting.
Are we Egypt?
No.
We're in the promised land.
I don't know.
Yeah, you scared me with that. I don't know.
That metaphor got away
Who
real
are
quick.
we in this story?
So we want to play a little game we call 20 Questions. Are you ready?
Oh, man.
I love this game. My favorite game. Here we go.
Here we go. Hey! Okay. I'm going first.
Okay, it's on you.
All right, Tim, what's your favorite Indiana Jones movie and why?
Raiders of the Lost Ark, because I like the Ark.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, all right.
I like Raiders. I like The Last Crusade also. Those are my two favorites.
Totally Indiana Jones is what I realized.
Yeah.
That's who Tim is.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
Tim, after watching your film, you leave us hanging. Why?
That was mean.
Because I like to see people swing.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, I want more than that.
He wants to go fisticuffs.
All right.
Well, I leave you hanging.
Go ahead.
I leave you hanging because there's more to tell, and I can't tell it all in 2 hours. It's too big of an epic.
And that's why you got the second film.
All right. Gabe?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Did Cecil DeMille's 10 Commandments get it right, or Disney Prince of Egypt? Who was more accurate?
Well, I'm partial to Cecil B. DeMille. I think that he got a lot of it right, and but I don't even think I watched the Prince of Egypt for a long time, so I can't remember how right they got it or not. So I'm going with Cecil.
You're in the grandkids category now, which means
real quick, piggyback on that.
Yeah.
Which version of Cecil?
What? There's two?
Well, yes.
Did you even watch the movie?
I did. That was a setup.
Well, I think that what's very interesting is that you'll come to see is that he has a bit of both. He has, as they know in our film, in this new film, we've got an Egyptian approach and we got a Hebrew approach, and he went down the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
No, we need it so power. We got handed so power.
What you mean Egyptian approach and Hebrew approach? What you talking about?
Well, an Egyptian approach basically has looked at the narrative of the scriptures, and they're saying that the crossing happened at some border lakes, shallow, reedy lakes, because they think the Bible grabbed words from Egyptian and used them in the text, and that's their connection. But the Hebrew approach says, that's not the case. What's happened here is that this was Hebrew. It was written in Hebrew. It has Hebrew meanings. And this sea crossing is nowhere near Egypt. It's on the other side of the Sinai Peninsula at the Gulf of Aqaba.
If I was from Egypt, I wouldn't want to be arguing for the Egyptian approach because they crossed in the shallow water and then all of them drowned in the shallow water.
That's not very intelligent.
I wouldn't be one to argue for that position.
Gabe, it was a miracle. It was a miracle.
They all drowned in the shallow water. That was the miracle.
I think it's on you, Pastor Tobin.
Okay. So speaking of that, since we're on this, the whole Yam Suf thing, translated as Sea of Reeds, that goes with the Egyptian view. Is there an inherent anti-supernaturalist bias in that view?
Well, I think there are a number of people that might have that. In fact, that they don't want to deal with miracles. And so the question about the last 18, from the 1800s on, has there been a naturalistic, overlaying our thoughts on the Bible so that these events might have happened as a history, but not as a supernatural miracle, that there had to be some naturalistic way to explain the parting of the sea. And that's what I'm sort of uncovering is, has that influenced our understanding of Scripture? Because in every case, as I did these interviews, there was always an attempt by many scholars to minimize and to remove a supernatural source of it.
Yeah, I saw that. There was a question. You can hit the music. I'm just going to talk over it. At the very end, there's a lady asking him, wait, what do you mean by supernatural?
Yeah.
and I was like, hey, then you're just gonna leave us there. You're just going to leave us there like that.
I get the baptism.
We're coming back to it. Obviously, as you can see, it's interesting how over time people who read the biblical narrative start to question whether or not there was as many people. That's one of the big questions we have in the film, because it says there were 600,000 Israelites, and that goes back to another Hebrew word, Aleph.
Right.
Does that Aleph mean 1,000, or does it mean clan, or does it mean group?
Right.
And so. But it also we also know that every time the word is used, it's adding up. It's adding up to mean that there was thousands of people there. I mean, it was like 600,000 men. So this is a big question that the film is raising.
In 1 Corinthians 10, Paul says all were baptized in the cloud and in the sea. Did that mean babies?
Did it mean what? Babies?
Babies.
Yep.
Careful.
Pass. Yam Suf.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got another question.
You gotta follow up.
We ain't done.
Uh-oh.
Were there any babies baptized in the making of this film?
No, but some did take a shower. I'm kidding.
Hit him! All right. Hit him!
Does Eric Metaxas play Moses in part 2?
No, he wanted the part, but we did not give it to him.
That's good. That's good.
You say Eric? No.
Yeah.
No, Eric.
I feel good.
He's got that New York thing going.
Okay.
Doesn't work good.
So if we promise not to tell anyone, we say it real quietly. Which part of the Gulf of Aqaba do you think they crossed and why?
Yam Suf.
Cheating.
Oh man!
So
obviously we're going to look. We're going to look at 4 different locations on the Gulf of Aqaba, and Straits of Tiran is one. Nuweiba Beach is another. The tip near Eilat is the third, and there's another one that people are suggesting that you haven't heard of before, and so that's going to be on the Gulf of Aqaba, and then we're going to go back and look at the lakes region, and we're going to look at how would water part. How would water part? Did it happen scientifically with the wind set-down theory, which we show models that have been created, or did it happen supernaturally? And we're going to look at Nuweiba Beach because this is the highly controversial and speculated location where people are searching for chariot wheels. And what have they found? And can chariot wheels, still exist? And I've got marine biologists coming in, and we're going to comment on that. And we're going to look at the whole 900-pound gorilla in the room and ask this question, is any of this evidence?
Man, he's just totally leaving us hanging.
I know. He knows what he's doing. He's setting it
up. He's doing part one.
So what are the two biggest questions ultimately you sought to answer as you started making this film?
Can I get it finished? That was the first one.
Ain't that the truth? I identify with that one.
You know about that one?
Uh-huh.
No, I want to know what the truth is in this situation. When I started searching for what we know is that the narrative of the Bible has a number of elements that will sometimes lead you to a place where you realize that the only way it could have happened is that it would have been a supernatural miracle. And I'll just be honest with you, when I went to Nueva Beach in 2002 and stood there and I said, well, if this is a location, it would have been bigger than anyone could have imagined it, even in Cecil B. DeMille's portrayal of it.
Wow.
So I think the big question is that is it possible that this historical recording of this event is much greater than what we might have seen in picture books as a child.
Wow.
And it might be much more spectacular and greater. And it's also told to us that we are not to forget this. Do not forget what God did by bringing you up out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And there are Hebrew words. There's a Hebrew word that in one interview I found out that this whole question of the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire, you see, these Israelites lived in a land where they had idolatry and there were gods there. They could see them. But all of a sudden this pillar of cloud comes. And I think the Hebrew word is used that it hovered over them and it cared for them, guiding them to this mountain. They came on like eagle's wings to the mountain. Day and night they were able to travel.
Right.
That's the same word as when the Spirit of God hovers over the waters in creation.
Oh,
whoa, Genesis.
Oh, man.
Okay.
That's good. You better give him some music for that. Give him some music.
All right, Tim. So our name is Cross Politic, and we like to talk about politics on the show. What are the modern day implications, political implications of the Red Sea crossing?
Well, if you cross a body of water, it puts you on the other side of the sea, right?
Yeah.
So if you cross the body of water at the Reedy Lakes, where do you end up? You end up in the Sinai Peninsula.
Right.
If you cross the body of water on the Gulf of Aqaba, where do you end up?
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. And this is where the ancient land of Midian is. And pretty much there's no contest that this is northwest Saudi Arabia and north and southern Jordan is where the people of the Midianites lived.
Yeah.
And the Bible says Moses fled to the land of Midian, and he was there for 40 years. The question is was Moses in the land of Midian when he came to the mountain? Did he wander over the top of the Gulf of Aqaba, bring his sheep down into the Sinai Peninsula? Well, that's 200-300 mile trip depending on where he is. And the problem with that is if you look at it, is that this problem with water and shepherds and wells.
Yeah.
So you just didn't take your sheep any old place. You had to go to places where you weren't in conflict with other herds.
Right.
There's a lot of people that believe, and this has been a very resisted idea, that Sinai is in Arabia.
Right.
And so this is where we're heading later on after we do Red Sea Miracle, Part 1 and Part 2. It's Journey to Mount Sinai. So I've been filming the different locations, Har Karkum, the traditional Mount Sinai, Jebel Sin Bashar, and Jebel Lawz, other locations. We're heading the narrative, we're following, biblically investigating the journey all the way. We're going to work our way through the Bible if we can. And so that's where we're heading. So the political ramification there was, well, what happens if this holy mountain that the nation of Israel comes to is in Saudi Arabia?
Ooh. You're just going to leave it hanging again. Come on. It's like you'll have to wait for part 2, Gabe. Okay, I got this. So speaking of sheep, How many Jacob sheep do you personally own?
Ooh, I'm interested.
None. I don't own any of
Oh,
Jacob.
well, you were doing so, leaving us hanging once again.
You couldn't like pack one in your bag on the way home.
Man, those horns on those Jacob sheep are gnarly.
Yeah, they are.
I wanted to buy one. I was like, I want a Jacob
What are you
sheep.
gonna do with a Jacob sheep?
What
you gonna do with a Jacob sheep?
I'm gonna
eat it.
All right, one more. Whoa, just
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
All right. Out of the 20 years of research that you've been doing,
20 years.
That's first of all, I want a budget like that.
20
Can I just?
years.
I almost need to ask you how to get a budget like that.
Yeah.
Out of the 20 years of research you've been doing this, what's the most amazing thing that you've uncovered or discovered, especially about the Red Sea?
Oh, that's in part 2.
Actually, I actually wanted to make a part 3, but they wouldn't let me. So,
The budget has limits, okay?
yeah, that's right. Well, on the Red Sea miracle, what's the most amazing thing? Well, I think I've actually that could be one that I stumped. I think the biggest thing for me is that I have had a problem with the numbers of Israelites because I've been in the desert, and I think I've been confronted, by the way, that if I'm going to believe the Scripture and if I'm going to look at the numbers, I have to be open to the fact that this many people were provided for in the wilderness, and I think that to me, then that's changed my understanding of how big this really is.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I have to trust God. I mean, then I kind of look at it and go, well, can I trust Him for me and for my family?
Yeah,
and
right.
if God can do these types of things, we've got to, then you think, well, here we are floating around, on this planet, we're circling, and we realize if this is the creator of the universe,
right?
Is it that hard? Is it really that hard
That's
that
right.
He could sustain these people in the wilderness?
Yeah.
But
Amen.
the challenge is that our faith can start to become naturalistic. We are oozing in naturalism all around us, and we don't have the faith. And what is the biggest problem that God has, or Jesus would say, because of lack of faith? These things can't happen.
Right.
And so what has challenged me in this investigation is my own small-mindedness. If I'm going to read this and say, then I have to trust that this was what happened, and we'll deal with the numbers as we move forward. And that's the risk of these films. So they're risk-taking films.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if I put the chips on the table and we start seeing a pattern and we start seeing this, then the risk isn't just on me; it's on the unbeliever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what we're saying is that, in fact, what's starting to happen is that people who are uncomfortable, people who have confidence in their unbelief, now are becoming less confident in their unbelief.
Wow, that's the answer to your politics question, Gabe, right there.
That's exactly right.
I mean,
This is an attack on unbelievers.
Yeah, and the numbers. I mean, if God provides, God provides. Okay, can I go next? I don't know whose turn it is. I forgot. Is it mine? Okay.
Yes, it's on you.
Okay. So, have you had your Royal Geological Society gold medal taken from you yet?
Oh.
Yeah, isn't that great? Isn't that fantastic? What's very interesting is that when we uncover these different people, I'll tell you one other thing that I'm noticing is that, people say, how did you find all this stuff and everything? And I have to just say, I just feel as if I've been directed.
Yeah.
There'll be days when I'll sacrifice the Saturday and I'll be reading through, we'll be searching, we're doing research, it's an ongoing thing, and you'll find something and you go, wow, they're on, I read like 500 pages, and then I go, look at that. Or you'll hear something. And so we're constantly gathering and filming and transcribing and then creating databases where people are coming in. And what ends up happening is that you have lots of shards of information, and you then start to see a pattern that starts to come forward. And then that's my opportunity, really, is to package it so you can see it. And that's how these patterns are coming together. That's how these films are coming together.
Let me hit him!
This guy, I think I'm giving it's a little bit of a spoiler, but this one guy in the history of the Royal Geological Society,
you were saying,
lost he's the only guy ever to lose a gold medal.
Like, lose it.
Got it taken away.
Oh, I was going to say, wait, he misplaced it?
No, like, you know.
They said you can't have this no more.
They canceled. This is like before cancel culture. Whoa. This is like cancel culture. Whoa. In archaeology and like in Indiana Jones land.
What did he do again?
I can't tell you. You got to watch the movie.
Oh.
It's coming out on February 18th.
Well, see, that was my last question. Tim, when is the movie coming out?
And how can we watch it?
No. When are the movies with a Z coming out?
With a Z. Yeah, February 18th. It's going to be a one-night Fathom event. You can get tickets now at Patterns of Evidence, patternsofevidence.com. You should bring your group, bring your family, bring that uncle who's, doesn't really know for sure if any of this happened, because you're going to have a lot to talk about. That's why we call our company Thinking Man Films. It gives you something to think about. Nice. And so we think, great. Thanks for having me on your show, guys.
Hey, Tim, thank you for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. Hey, great work on the film, too. And can we talk afterwards? Like, how do we get that budget? Because I need a 20-year budget. We talked about this the first time on the show, Tim.
I know.
We're from Minnesota. We're friends. We can figure this out, don't you know? All right, more cross politic when we come back. No, Tim, I'm serious.
I've never heard a black man say, "Don't you know?" like that.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
At Logos Online School, we believe learning should be accessible. Homeschooling shouldn't stop you from staying connected. Enjoy classmates from across the United States and the whole world, coming at you 4 days a week and 32 weeks a year. We believe learning should be engaging, a group of like-minded students who love God and their classmates. Learning should also be customized, with more than 50 different classes offered throughout the day. Take one class or join us full-time. We believe learning should be inspired. Our knowledgeable instructors enthusiastically engage the students. The goal? Hearts that love learning. Lastly, learning should be affordable, committed to making Christian education reasonable for all families. From $620 per class for an entire year to $2,232 per year for full-time students. The best option on the market. Join us at Logos Online School.
You notice how close your camera is, Toby? We've done some different changes in the studio.
What are you talking about?
I also noticed that Chocolate Knox made me scoot away from him.
Well,
when I got into the studio this morning, he said, "Can you scoot over?"
This is for your composition's help.
Does it look better?
I don't know. We'll let the audience be the judge of that.
Yeah. I'll ask my wife.
There you go.
Hey, welcome back to Cross Politics on the Fight Left Feast Network.
Thought I'd help you out with that.
You lying dog-faced pony.
You're a lying dog-faced pony shoulder.
He's got that too.
Create!
He's got it all.
Oh, man. Hey, you guys.
Toby's on fire.
We are excited to bring to you right now. How much are we going to bring?
Let's just give him 10 minutes.
Okay. Hey, we got to sit down. We
Maybe
asked
11.
David French.
On our East Coast tour.
On our East Coast tour. We sat down with him in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes.
In a barbecue joint.
Yeah.
2.5 hours.
And we asked him, I think, for about an hour is what we asked him for, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we did.
And 2.5 hours later, we were like, excuse us, Mr. French, we gotta go now to the next thing.
We had to go.
He was like, come on, guys, drinks on me this time.
And man, we are so grateful for the time we had with them.
Absolutely.
I think we literally fought, laughed, and feasted with him.
We did.
I mean, a little bit of everything.
He said after we got done, it's like, this is a real conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
I enjoyed that.
We pushed him on some things. I think
he pushed us on some things.
Yeah.
You're a lying dog-faced pony shoulder.
He's incredibly intelligent man.
Yeah, he was.
A ton of really cool experiences. Told us about his life and how he got to where he is now.
Military career, his serving as a lawyer.
We talked about a ton of stuff with him. And so we're going to drop you into part of our conversation with him where we were talking to him about abortion.
Switching topics. We just came from Atlanta, Georgia. They went through the whole heartbeat bill scenario. And, of course, a lot of heartbeat bills have passed in the last year or 2 years. Where do you stand on the heartbeat bill in relationship to actually ending abortion?
Okay. Where I think the heartbeat bill is not super relevant to ending abortion, I think it is more relevant to ending Roe. And those are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's basically, so the U.S. abortion rate has been declining precipitously.
Okay.
It has been declining precipitously for a long time.
Right.
So it peaked in like the first year or so, the Reagan administration, like around 1981. After Roe was decided, the rate went boom.
And that's like per capita is what you're talking, like per thousands or millions or whatever.
Yeah. So it went boom, just way up, because before Roe, abortion was illegal.
Yeah, right.
So all of a sudden it becomes legal. Initially it was like legal, and a lot of people thought with no restrictions, and so the rate just goes boom, way up, and then it just crests, and then it starts to fall. It falls during the Reagan administration, the first Bush administration, the Clinton administration, the second Bush administration, the Obama administration, the first year of the Trump administration. So pro-life, pro-choice, it didn't matter on the president. The abortion rate's just diving. So right now it is below what it was when Roe was decided.
Yeah.
Which most Christians don't have any clue about.
The rate. So, but obviously the average numbers it's fluctuated a little bit, but
and absolute numbers were smaller, and even though the population's a lot higher.
Right.
So the rate has gone so much lower that we have fewer abortions in the U.S. in absolute numbers than we did, say, 25, 30 years ago, when 25, 30 years ago we had millions fewer people in the U.S. That's how much the rate is.
Yep.
But it's still way too many.
Right, sure.
It's still way too many. So why...
One would be way too many.
Right. So it's still way too many. But if you're going to look at a cultural transformation in the U.S., it's been amazing. Okay, so, and it's happened across pro-choice, pro-life. So on the one hand, we get too focused on the politics of abortion.
Okay.
And we think the only way to fight abortion is politically.
Yep.
And so what I want to just put a pin in that, because it's worth asking ourselves, why did abortion rates fall in the Obama administration? Why did abortion rate fall in the Clinton administration? So we've got to ask these questions. So that's one thing. Now, at the same time, it remains vitally important to fight the political battle and the legal battle.
Right.
I think the best estimate is if you overturned Roe and you locked in all these state laws that prohibit abortion or limit it more, you would decrease the abortion rate and decrease abortions in the U.S. by about 13%.
Okay.
Which is a lot, but it's not.
Still not enough.
Everyone, if you talk to the average person, if you overturn Roe, do you end abortion? They'd probably go, yeah. No.
Oh, right.
Because it would return it to states.
States would have to take it over.
So what are heartbeat bills important for? Heartbeat bills are important, in my view. This is very controversial in the pro-life movement.
Okay.
My view, heartbeat bills are very important because they are utterly irreconcilable with Roe. Whereas a lot of the other bills that go to the Supreme Court, like waiting periods, admitting privileges, they're all compatible with Roe.
Yep. Right.
So you could win.
So they're trying to feather something in to the Roe decision while leaving that intact.
Yeah, Roe and Casey. So you could win every one of those restriction cases. You might kind of chip away at the abortion rate.
Yeah, chipping it away.
But you won't overturn Roe.
Right.
Because the Supreme Court is, in all likelihood, especially the current composition, it's not going to say, you're not asking me to overturn Roe. And I don't even have to overturn Roe to uphold this law. So what does a heartbeat bill do? A heartbeat bill says there is no way you can rule for this law and keep Casey and Roe in place.
Right.
No way.
Right.
And so it just sort of goes, here you go, Supreme Court.
Right.
And
up or down.
In my view, it's worth knowing the answer to that question. Now, the Supreme Court could answer the question by just rejecting review of these cases. It doesn't have to take the case. Right. But they could reject review. All the circuit courts will strike down these laws because they're completely contrary to Supreme Court precedent.
Yep.
All these states will appeal them. And if the Supreme Court doesn't hear any of those appeals, that's an answer.
Right.
If it hears one of them, it will give an even more definitive answer. And I think it's worth knowing because so much of our politics has been oriented around the Roe, who is going to do to either shore up Roe or undermine Roe.
Right.
And part of me feels like after having been loosey with the football, for,
Yes.
I mean, I remember I was in law school at Harvard when the Casey decision was handed down.
Was it 92?
92, I believe.
92, yeah.
And so this was a majority Republican appointed Supreme Court.
Yep. Again.
Upheld Roe. Yeah. I mean, they modified it with this Casey undue burden standard.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Are you kidding?
Right.
Are you kidding? And then, so you fast forward, 28 years, and all these people are saying, oh man, Roe's in danger. And I'm,
yeah, right. Who knows?
I had somebody say to me, and I think it's a great line, Justice Roberts would be a solid 7th vote to overturn Roe, but he's not going to be a 5th vote.
Yep. A solid 7th.
That is for real.
That's true. That's true.
And so you
felt like that too.
You feel like you're Lucy with the football, and then you start to think, our politics is fracturing over this question. I don't even know if we can get what we want.
Yeah. What's your take on? There's more. So today, as we speak in Richmond, you've got this big Second Amendment rights.
Protests,
I've seen tens of thousands of people rally. Second, because you got the Governor Northam and the
blackface Northam,
and the Democratic majority in the Assembly, and they're at least brandishing Second Amendment limitations or something. And you've got all these counties passing things saying we're not going to enforce anything that the Virginia state passed on. That's just state level. But what do you think about nullification movements on the state level with regard to abortion?
Oh, well, I think the general rule is, so what the Heartbeat bills they're kind of trying that.
Right. So far, no governor has been willing to enforce it. But you're right.
As a practical matter, you couldn't do it. Okay, and here's why. So, in a lot of these states where they've passed Heartbeat bills and things like that, they have like one clinic, one functioning clinic.
Right.
Or two.
Yeah.
So
it's a heavily pro-life state.
Yeah, part of this is supply and demand. If you look at the abortion rate in, say, New York, and the abortion rate in some of these southern states, it is so much lower.
Right.
And the pro-choice side likes to say, well, that's because there's only one clinic. And sometimes there's not any, there's not enough demand to support.
Another
and
clinic,
so let's say you have that one clinic, and the governor says,
shut it down.
It's shut it down.
Yeah.
Federal court enters an order and says, nope, can't do that.
Right.
And the state says, nope, keeping it shut down.
Yeah.
Federal judge then says, U.S. Marshals, enforce my order.
Yeah.
Is a governor going to say, state police, stop the marshals?
Right.
Okay, if that happens, you're talking about civil conflict.
Right. Yeah. What do you think, though, about the sort of the rhetoric of going at least that far, and then making them send the federal marshal in to keep it open, and then at that point the state sort of stands down. But to make the point, we've done, short of armed conflict, we stood our ground until they sent the feds in, and the value of just saying we're being forced to do this by the feds.
I would say, look, I would say a pro-life governor could say, there is not one thing I will do to support or facilitate legal abortion in this state. And I will do everything lawfully that I can do to oppose it.
Yeah.
And if that means I'm going to continue to enforce state law until directly ordered by a federal court not to, I say do that. Now, the thing is, I do say this. If you're going to send the state police to shut down a clinic, if you're going to say, I'm going to do that until the armed federal marshals arrive, you're essentially asking for, you're creating an extremely volatile situation.
Sure.
And I would say that is something that I would not, if I was in a state house, I would not do that. I would.
So what about the decision in 1973 in the first place? Should the states never follow? Because the Supreme Court doesn't legislate.
Part of the problem is that we let it go this long. What about a state deciding right afterwards?
That doesn't apply to us. That's a Supreme Court decision. That's not legislation.
They couldn't have done it. Once you
didn't have the people.
Number one, you didn't have the people. Number two, once you have the Supreme Court decision, then you have. So Supreme Court decision. Look at it this way: a Supreme
I think
Court.
we would have a sport. Arizona, it was illegal. Idaho, it was illegal. They just buckled.
But there's a very
Court.
big difference between saying I have the popular support to pass a bill and I have the popular support to defy the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Okay, so those
And
are
I
two
think the
different
fact,
things.
the fact that we all flopped, though, tells you that we didn't have the will to defy. Right.
And the other thing is, what people have to realize, and this is something, this is going to be my libertarian streak coming out.
Yes.
Every rule, ultimately in theory, a judicial decision, regulation, statute, ultimately in theory, has a bayonet at the end of it.
Yes, sir.
Every one of them
absolutely does.
And so
that's Romans 13, though. That's not libertarian.
Yeah, no, but that's what libertarians use this to say. Look, regulation is significant.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, they have a gun.
I'll give you a great example of something that is one of the more tragic events and very divisive and scandalous for a million good reasons. When an African American man is choked to death in the streets of New York. When what was his crime? Selling loose cigarettes.
We're with you on that.
Yeah,
the cops were the thugs.
Selling loose cigarettes.
Yep.
And so you think, okay, well, couldn't you just write him a ticket?
But it escalated.
It escalated. But that's the thing is every rule of the state has a bayonet at the end of it.
It absolutely does.
And so,
okay, David, help me out with something though. There has to be. Was it the Hebrew midwives or was it the Egyptian midwives?
Hebrew midwives.
Hebrew midwives.
Yeah.
Back when Pharaoh told him to kill well, there has to be that option for us somewhere. What's that option for us?
Well, look, if a doctor is being told by the state to kill an unborn baby, the doctor says no, and if the state forces him at the point of the bayonet, the doctor says, "Send me to prison."
Uh-huh.
Right. To me, that's an easy question.
Yeah.
So the difficulty you have in the abortion context is you have a doctor who's willing to kill the child. Right. Uh-huh. You have a mother who is willing to have the child terminated in her womb.
Yep.
And then the question is, when does somebody jump into that process? And a lot of these state governments are doing what they can to do it.
Yep.
But ultimately, the bayonet is in the hands of the people who say that process must complete. And also, I would say this. I would say that if you're going to talk about, are we going to be pro-life to the point of initiating civil strife, how many of these governors would remain governor?
Bayonets. At the end of a bayonet.
Yeah. But that's kind of like laws and sanctions. It's kind of how it works, though.
No, yeah. It was the whole point. It's exactly right. Every law
Yeah.
the civil magistrate makes has an implicit threat.
That's right.
And the threat is one of violence.
Yeah.
And that's why I was right away said, yeah, that's what Romans 13 says. Yeah. God designed it that way.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right. Yeah, but there's
there's promises and
but you were trying to say something. You were trying to say something, and I made you stop and wait for us to turn the cameras back on.
I know. Well, I think he kind of hits the nail on the head with where some of the tension's at between kind of smash mouth incrementalists like us and our abolitionist brothers.
Okay.
Where he says that the doctor and the woman have the bayonet, meaning that the law is behind them.
Well, and ultimately the state has the bayonet. That's what he's talking about.
Exactly. But the bayonet's on their side.
Right.
Is what
so anything that you do to oppose their interaction,
it's pointed at us. Saying, which is why you got police officers, and snipers guarding the Planned Parenthood in Spokane, Washington,
or the library.
There's no neutrality.
Or it was the library. They're doing everything. There's probably snipers all over.
All the bayonets are against us.
Yeah.
And so what the abolitionist brothers are doing, they're trying to fight over the bayonet. Right? They're trying to say, no, we want to outlaw abortion.
The state's
and the states is saying, no, we want to keep abortion legal.
Wait, I just want to say,
we want to do that too.
But what they're doing is they're preaching and saying, you're pointing the bayonet the wrong way.
Right.
You're pointing it at the wrong people.
Thus says the Lord.
Yeah.
You must defend innocent life,
absolutely.
not take it.
Yeah, that's right.
And God's law is good. So I'm totally with them on trying to grab the bayonet. I just think the worshiping at Planned Parenthood is more effective.
It's a bigger bayonet.
Exactly.
I think
that's exactly.
It's a sharper bayonet.
I want to say you could do both, and I think
I'm not trying to say one or the other,
because I think one thing that gets lost in the conversation. I mean, there's so much about this, but one thing that gets lost in the conversation, when we talk about our abolitionist brothers, is they have a lot of people who have been inside the pro-life movement. We just saw this this past Wednesday with Ricardo Davis. Yeah. It is messy.
Oh yeah,
they are taking bribes.
Right.
They are not being faithful.
If you missed that interview with Ricardo Davis, he's the president of Georgia Right to Life, and walked us through the whole Georgia heartbeat bill.
That was messed up.
He was the one that started the heartbeat bill, and then they co-opted it
with no exceptions. For rape or incest or anything. And then by the time it actually gets in there, it's full of compromises. And he's pointing out that something's going on there. And there was nobody raised their hand. Nobody wanted to fess up. A lot of these abolitionists are in the trenches, and they see the compromise, they see the sellout,
in the politics of it. That's where their game is to fight at.
And I have a ton of respect for the experience of those people.
Yeah,
and I'm just saying that there's a two-part approach, and sometimes what happens is there's a lack of respect for what the other group is doing that's not necessarily engaged in what you're doing.
Running the other plays.
So you got guys who are in the politics who are doing what they're supposed to do, and you guys are fighting over there, but you guys are only at the church singing and praying.
Right.
And it's like,
wait.
Only
singing and praying.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean,
do you understand how this works?
I mean, what was Abraham doing in the land when all the Canaanites and Philistines were killing all their babies?
Come on now.
Yeah.
Preach on
Planting worship centers.
And the real, if I can say it this way, the angry abolitionist comes along and says, Abraham, why are you spending so much time building altars?
Yeah.
Right.
Why don't you get the bayonet?
And Abraham says, you don't understand. This is the biggest bayonet there is.
Yeah, that's right.
And with this bayonet, we will take the land.
Yeah.
We will get the land. And so, again, it's not either or.
Yeah.
I'm always reminded of this too with just another example of this. You got Elijah and Obadiah.
Yeah.
Right.
Obadiah is in the court of Ahab, hiding the prophets,
the faithful prophets,
the faithful prophets of God from Jezebel, who's out murdering them all.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of tension there between them.
How does Obadiah stay in the courts?
But they are both serving God.
That's right.
And you need to know where you are and who you are in the story. One of the most hurtful things that I've had to come to realization about is that sometimes I'm probably more like David than I am Solomon. And what I need to do is set a foundation for Solomon. I need to gather all the things, make sure that he has everything he needs to fight, lay the foundation so that when he gets here, he can build God's tabernacle.
Right.
And sometimes we try to do things that we're not that person in the story.
Right.
And so figure out where the story is, what has God given you access to, and you need to do that faithfully and not try and be Solomon.
And the thing is when you're walking in the blessing of God, you are at complete peace with what God's called you to do.
Man, you better say that.
And what you're doing in that moment doesn't matter really what anyone else is doing.
That's right.
But it's when you start looking to the side, like no longer are you under the blessing of God. Now I get it. If somebody's coming in and trying to sabotage you,
that's what I was thinking.
Then you got to deal. You got to deal with that. You got to deal with that. But that's not what we're talking about. When we say run all the plays, we mean everybody submit to God, run the play in the service cheerfully, joyfully, in the fruit of the Spirit. And if you're at a state house, if you're doing the protests, if you're holding up the signs, if you're doing evangelism, if you're running a care center for single moms, or if you're singing psalms,
you're talking about the body of Christ.
This is the body of Christ, and we don't despise one another. We love one another, and we're doing. The only thing that Church of Planned Parenthood needs is some psalms.
And I was going to say that, and I was thinking about the same thing our abolitionist brothers would probably hit us with. We got to learn how to do the gentle brotherly nudge. Like, y'all doing great, man. Hey, here goes the Psalter. Here goes the Psalter. Throw one of these in there.
Learn some parts here.
You know what I'm saying?
And man, they're going to come after you with a bigger bazooka next time if you be singing the song.
That's right.
Come on now.
That's
So
right.
yeah, we just need to learn. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. Oh, and Wednesday, Doug Wilson, are we going to do
Worship is warfare.
We're dropping the show
the whole
Wednesday.
thing. Wednesday, that was at G3.
Coming at you.